Hello, everybody. Wonderful to see you at the 2025 Summer School of the European Association for Behavior Analysis. We have a great turnout today. We have nearly 200 people online as we speak. We have 800 registrations, so hopefully there'll be a few more coming online as we are getting along. I think they're just piling in now as the start is. The European Association for Behavior Analysis runs a biannual conference, as you know, and some years ago we had this fantastic idea that we would run summer schools in the years in between to allow everybody to have to meet in between. So, given that we were a wee bit delayed this year, we thought we'd try it online, and we have set up a Facebook group, and I've put the link in the beginning of the at the beginning there, a Facebook group for your discussion. So hopefully throughout the month of July, you will be discussing all the issues that arise in the talks. We have 4 talks, really wonderful speakers lined up for you every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock UK time. You need to work out your own transfer of the time. We have 4 speakers over the next 4 weeks, and hopefully a lively discussion. Our student representative will moderate the discussion on the Facebook, and we'll all be taking part on it as well. So it's going to be great and give us plenty of opportunity. We have some wonderful help from the Behavior Live team technicians. Throughout this talk, there'll be 4 red buttons are turning up with a funny noise. You need to click at least 3 of those to be registered for your CEUs. All of that is free for courtesy of the European Association for Behavior Analysis. Our first speaker this evening is Rasmi Krippendorf from Metropolitan University in Oslo. Is that it's not that the right way of putting it? Oslo-Met. I did it the wrong way around. Rasmi is employed by the municipality of Asker, Norway, as a behavior analyst systems coordinator. That makes it a really interesting job description, and probably not many of us are so familiar with that. But he is working with the deviant behavior in children in districts of 100 kindergartens and 50 schools. He has personal experience with 3 of his own, and a wife, and probably most difficult behavior of a cat. So Rasmi, it's lovely to welcome you. Of course, Rasmi is also our treasurer of the European Association for Behavior Analysis, and he's keeping our books right, which is brilliant. So he was the first to volunteer enthusiastically to give the talk, and I think given the topic, we have so many people interested in hearing from you this evening, Rasmi. So over to you. I'm going to leave the presentation out. No, just one more thing, actually, for the participants. There's a question section on the right-hand bottom corner under questions. So please put your questions in there, and then if you see other people asking similar questions, you can prioritize the questions. I'll join you again at the end of the presentation to chair the question and answer session with Rasmi, so he doesn't have to follow the texts and the chat. So I'll leave you now, and I'll join you whenever you're finished. But I'll be around. I'll be in the background. Okay, over to you.
Very nice. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is about the applied behavior analysis in mainstream schools, as the title says, and what can we actually do as behavior analysis. I have to tell you that when I started out working as a behavior analyst in schools, I was a fool. I was an idiot. In my first job, I had a supervisor that in our first meeting started out by saying that she did not believe in rewarding children. And that confused me completely. I was completely baffled, and I did not know how to respond to that. I came out with a master's degree in behavior analysis. I was eager to save children from evil people. I was really happy to be working with this child that we were working with. He was a 4th grader, 10 years old, had multiple kinds of problems. He was being placed in a separate room all day playing a computer. Whenever he didn't get his will, he would have a 2-hour tantrum. He was violent towards the teachers, towards the other children. And I, of course, when I started working with him, abundantly rewarded him for good behavior. I did some different, what we do. And I taught him how to behave, first on the 2-2 basis with me, and then eventually with other children, invited them into his room, and then he was put back into the classroom. And I also put in some academic stuff. I taught him the numbers. I taught him beginning to read, letters, recognition. But the supervisor, she seemed completely ignorant to the results. Or when we talked about it, she attributed them to other things. And when she found out that I gave him chocolate, she notified the principal. And I was told not to do that. Don't do that kind of thing. I, of course, kept doing it, and I eventually lost my job. So one got to ask, not the obvious question, what is wrong with these people, but how can we as behavior analysts do things differently so that we might help not only the children, but also the teachers? We need to find ways to work with and through the teachers, changing and improving the way they do their work, instead of opposing us when we do ours. So to do so, I believe we need to look at 3 different levels or categories of problems in school. First, what are the problems that the teachers themselves perceive as most important? And second, what are the problems that the students experience? And third, what are the underlying premises for the day-to-day way the teacher and students interact? So, what is the major problem in schools according to teachers? Yes, you guessed right. It is, of course, the behavior of the children. There are usually 4 big concerns. It is physical and verbal abuse in some form, as well as not doing what you're told and skipping school altogether. Behavior analysts have the tools to alleviate all these problems. That is we know we can. Not only reliably, but also fast and with a minimum use of resources. Let me just run through how I usually do. I start out with an ABC observation of some sort to determine what behavior to actually work with. And then either an assessment or a function, or sometimes an experimental evaluation to determine what reinforcers are in play. I then collect relevant data on occurrence, most often on frequency, duration, and intensity, but also sometimes latency or intertrial time, using our tools of recording, the partial or whole interval, the momentary time sample, and very often the rate. All of this takes time, usually weeks. And to a teacher, it may seem as we are not doing anything. It is notoriously hard to explain what we do and why, not only to teachers, to everybody. People don't understand us. But I've learned that if I do this groundwork well, it pays off quite fast once we get to the implementation phase. Now, finding scientific publications on similar cases and adapting the methods to our particular circumstances, it's usually always a lot of fun. However, while the problems may seem unique to the teacher, they are really not. So for solutions, we do more or less the same things over and over because they work. Only rarely do we need to consult the experimental literature. Most often, in the place where I work, we end up setting up a contingency contract with the kid. The reinforcers are usually funded by the parents. So the student makes points for wanted behaviors at school and then cashes in on rewards at home. If group contingencies are in effect, or we want them to be, we can implement the good behavior game or similar fun and obvious manipulations. And in general, as you all probably know, we can teach the children what to do, not what not to do. The common denominator in all of this is the use of positive reinforcement of wanted behavior. And this is actually the problem in school. But let's get back to that a little later. Now, looking at school from the student perspective, what is the major problem? And you probably guessed it again, it is not learning stuff. There is this idea stemming from religion, from before we had books, radio, or television, that we need to talk to people to teach them, like I am doing now. I'm sorry. And that people actually learn from listening. And yes, while there may be great speakers out there, entertainers, stand-up comedians, actors that fascinate us and enthrall us, what listening does to students is leaving them passive. If for some reason a student then falls behind and don't get it, and this is actually more the rule than the exception, the explanation for the failure is put on the student. In Norway, we have a whole separate state-funded institution that do nothing else but brand each problematic student with a diagnosis once they fall behind or fail to follow the normal school curriculum. Behavior analysis, of course, also have the means to rectify these problems. First of all, we know how to arrange learning step by step, building new skills upon already acquired, making sure the student is going through a logical sequence from simple to complex. That is not common in schools. All the books that I see, mathematics, all kinds of different subjects, the books that they follow are randomly picked from some author that publishes from some publishing house. None of them have gone through any kind of empirically validation of effect of learning. And many of them are in the category of tests. They sort of suppose that the student already knows the answers and he just has to prove it in the book. That is not smart. Since learning is something that the student does, not the teacher can and should arrange for student activity by using methods that are empirically shown to actually enhance learning and motivation for learning, like Siegfried Engelmann's direct instruction, of course. To some extent, especially when we talk physical skills, Banduras and others, modeling. We have the fluency-based instruction, and when using the standard acceleration charts, it's precision teaching by Ogden Lindsley. That's the FBI hat. I bought one in Washington when the EABA was there last. And on the way home, I wore that cap, and a lady on the plane said, "What's up with the hat?" And I said, "Fluency-based instruction." And she laughed, luckily. But normally, I guess in the US, you should not wear that kind of cap at the moment. Anyway, there are also more specialized methods like the discrete trial teaching and the incidental teaching that we use as behavior analysts on a daily basis. And all of these are thoroughly investigated and found out to yield fantastic results. But so far, they are all relatively unknown in the world of education. Not only in basic schools and elementary schools, but also in university levels. We don't see this a lot, not at all actually. Which brings us to the third category of problems in schools. I call it the real problems. Behavior analysis do not usually delve into the realm of attitudes and opinions. It is notoriously mentalistic, but this is what a teacher once said to me. The notion of separation between upbringing and teaching as a profession is rather deep-rooted among teachers. Another thing is the idea that rewarding children is somehow damaging to their development, possibly based on the completely unscientific theory of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. The weird thing is that the people that talk the loudest about these things, in my experience, often are the teachers that tend to punish their students, often without realizing it. Now, not using effective teaching methods is a huge problem in modern schools. It seems more important to impart the right opinions in children rather than establishing individual skills and expertise. For some students, school is a very long, slow-motion picture, dragging on forever and ever, while at the other end, we have some students that struggle to get enough time to practice, things move too fast, or they find the whole endeavor literally impossible. These two last are overlapping into the previous category of what students perceive as problematic, because it's all connected. I am sad to say that there are no immediate behavior analytic means to solve these structural and cultural problems. How do we change people's attitudes or opinions? That's a bit outside our scope. But one thing I have found out the hard way is that it is of no use to address the problems of culture and structure directly. You cannot tell a teacher that he punishes his students. You cannot say that inner motivation is a result of a previous history of outer motivation. It's too direct. There may be exceptions. There may be teachers that are open to hearing it, but in my experience, it's very few. So the first rule is to not speak about the problems, at least not with the persons directly involved. I did that in the beginning, and there are schools in that district that because of that, even to this day, do not want me to work with them. I oversee, as was mentioned, I oversee about 50 schools, 100 kindergartens in the district. I have a little mobile team of between 2 and 6 people that help me out. And luckily, in later years, I have found ways to avoid being blacklisted, mainly by being a nicer guy and not the wisecracking know-it-all I used to be. But to the point, if we simply listen to the teachers and start working on the behavior of the students, solving issues with violence, abuse, defiance, and truancy, we might build rapport with them. I often step in as a substitute teacher or take that one kid out in the hallway and relieve the teacher of the responsibility of calming him down. I even wipe the blackboard and put up the chairs, help clean up the classroom after session. It all adds up. It all builds rapport. My aim is to be associated with positive things and eventually become a discriminative stimulus for the teacher. You know you are when they smile every time they see you, or they seek you out during lunch to chat. It's an ongoing social validity check. I still do the odd post-intervention survey on social validity, but honestly, I find it a little useless. The people that hate you, they're not going to waste time answering a questionnaire anyway. So you only get the positive or slightly mildly critical feedback. And when I send out a survey on social validity, it is nice. It is very nice to get that pat on the shoulder, but my main purpose for distributing a questionnaire is to spot my own weaknesses and errors in order to be able to do better in the future. And the answers we get from the post-intervention surveys are rarely useful in this respect. No, the day-to-day contact with teachers and parents, and of course the kids, is the real measure of social validity. If things are good, you know. If things are not good, you also know. It is not enough to plan an intervention, do it, and then collect people's opinion about it afterwards. You've got to adapt, adjust, modify your intervention. I had a case, third grader, moving into 4th grade. And I started out doing positive reinforcement of wanted behavior. And I even started training basic reading with him. He had unwanted behavior. He was using a computer for games in school time, sitting with his hood over his head most of the time. And whenever the teachers interrupted him, he would have a fit. And even he was not too violent, but he could be very loud. And I started out very small with giving him a little candy and just for closing down his computer when I asked him to do it. And eventually we timed it for maybe 30 seconds. Can you believe it? closed for 30 seconds, and then you get another piece of candy and stuff like that. I was furiously told by the mother that I should not give her kid any candy. Okay, we came up with something else. Also, she did not want me to teach him how to read because he read better than everybody else in the classroom, which actually he didn't, but that was the statement. So I had to adapt. And what we did was have the teacher start doing what I was doing. The teacher was so happy about it that he took over. And that was okay with the parents because they knew him, they trusted him. They didn't trust me at all. But when he did it, it was okay. So he started giving out points, and we asked the parents if they would administer the rewards at home, and they said, yeah, we can do that. And so they set up a whole system, a whole contingency plan for the kid, more or less on their own. And it is still running to this day. They are sort of on and off when it's needed, when he has some fallback or stuff. But what happened was in less than 3 months, he was participating in all educational activities. He still has some other issues with behavior, mainly during recess, but actually the problem was solved quite fast, which built even more rapport with the teacher, and the parents also became more and more interested in what we do. Anyway, listening to your clients seems to be a smart move in general. And then sometimes, not always, magic happens when you build rapport. They ask for your help or your advice. In my earlier years, I then blurted out a complete list of everything they could do differently. And that's not productive, it turns out. So now I start with 1 or maybe 2 things, and usually just something small that they can easily manage. Once they get that one right, they're ready for more. Just like when we work with the children, it's not different. So I have a case in a first grader where the teacher came and asked, could I help her because he was antisocial behavior. He didn't talk to the other kids, and he had a little physical violence once in a while and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, of course, I'll do what we do, but she knew me from before in another case, and I said, why don't you do it? And she said, oh, can I? And he said, yeah, go ahead. Let me tell you what to do, and you can try it out. And if you just start with this one thing, do this tomorrow. And then she started, whenever the kid came to her and asked a question, she gave him some, I don't remember what, but some kind of small token reinforcer. And it worked like a charm for her. She was very excited and asked for more. And we then she set up a whole system with the parents being, again, the ones providing the rewards at home. And she accumulated points for wanted behavior at school. And there was an assistant in that classroom that sort of started to ask questions as well, and seemed to not be into this. And the teacher then asked me if I could just have a chat with her, and I did. And I didn't talk about anything behavior analytic at all. I just asked her where she was from and what she was doing on a daily basis, building a rapport. And then she asked, what is it you are doing? Can I participate? And once we get to that point, well, she was part of the program. In a day or 2, she started giving points as well. So that made me really happy. And it also made the life better for the child, of course. He started having friends at school instead of being the lone wolf. But sometimes you don't get there at all. No matter how nice I behave or how much chocolate I give them, they do not trust me. Or maybe it's because I give them chocolate. I actually do that. I buy a packet of some nice chocolates and just leave it at the teacher's desk. It's for you. Thank you for your good work, stuff like that. Once in a while, it's just a free gift for nothing, seemingly, but it builds rapport. But some people are just not there no matter what you do. And I usually do not want to waste neither their time, nor my time, nor the child or the parent's time. So I try to find an excuse or a good reason to close the case early and avoid the negative feedback and the inevitable lack of results that comes from a case like that. And I usually take the blame. I have no doubt that if they let me or were interested, we would get results. But since it cannot be, then it's better to say, okay, this may not work in this case. What we bring to the table is not for you now. You will have to look at something else. Then it's sort of we take the blame for why it will not work, instead of, as I did in the early days, I said, well, if you don't want to work with me, fuck you, and it's going to go to hell, and it's your fault. That doesn't really work, and people don't want you to come back when you act like that. Yeah, I have another case issue here with a fifth grader. I'm not sure I should talk about it because it's ongoing. I think I skipped that because I have an example of this exactly right now, where there are a group of teachers that they're just not into this, and I say, okay, fine, it's not going to work here. We have to withdraw from the case, and I hope you find some other good solutions. And we'll always come back if you think things change or stuff like that. But I know they don't. I know that if they let us do it, it would work. Anyway, if we look at it from the outside, not being a teacher, I'm sure that if the real problems were solved or at least addressed, and the effective methods of learning were introduced into the classrooms, the perceived problems that the teachers face would disappear or be highly reduced. That's my belief. It's not exactly an empirically evidenced thing, but I do believe that this is the case. If we can start in the other end, it would have tremendous results. So in many respects, we are running up the stick. We're starting at the wrong end when we help teachers solve their problems. We're not addressing the root cause of the problems. But for now, that is how it's going to be. That's how we're going to do it. In order to have any kind of influence. I mean, losing your job for doing the right thing is not helping any kids. Actually, my mom used to say that. She said, do you want to be right or do you want to be good? So don't get me wrong, we can still nudge here and there. For example, I recently started out a larger program with 4 classrooms to try out precision teaching in basic math and reading. So there's that. Actually, only 2 of them were precision teaching. The other 2 were fluency-based instruction, FBI. Oh, let me show you a few videos here. And another one. For those unfamiliar with these things, it may seem chaotic and there's a lot of noise. The learning channel here is say, which makes, and when 30 students are doing it at the same time, it's of course a lot of noise in the classroom. But every student is engaged in this, and all behavioral problems there are none when we do this in these classrooms. Unfortunately, there are other issues with these methods that needs to be addressed, and we are researching that at the moment. But it's a wonderful thing to try and get the empirically evidenced methods into the classrooms. We need that. We need that not only in our elementary schools, but also at the university level. It would be nice if students taking a master's degree could do that in 3 months instead of 2 years. It's possible. learning speed is there. Okay, let's go on. I do meet wonderful teachers that care about the children, and I meet them all the time in all schools. And a few of them even have an understanding of the real problems in school. It's just not the mainstream understanding in the school culture. So why is it that the school culture is so resistant to behavior analysis? Again, I see at least three causes. First of all, the idea of punishment is still permeating everything, not just school, but society. And then we have all these psychological terms out flying around that people tend to believe in because they're sexy. And third, some people have a genuine religious aversion to what we do, mainly because of misinformation or misconception. So on punishment, in the Scandinavian countries, physical punishment of children was outlawed long ago. And now the word punishment has come to mean corporal punishment. So when we talk about a teacher punishing a student, they hear it as an accusation of breaking the law. What teachers use instead is the word consequences, which we also use, but in a slightly different way. We could go for using negative consequences. That would be a compromise between us. So when a behavior analyst talk about consequences, and especially when manipulating a child's behavior, my personal focus is entirely on positive consequences, reinforcement. Too many teachers and parents, this seems counterintuitive. They see it as if we are deliberately rewarding bad behavior. Sometimes the timing is so immediate in between different kinds of behaviors. You had a kid that is shouting and screaming, and then he's quiet for 3 seconds, and I reinforce that, but they see it as if I reinforce the total picture. It's difficult to explain. In their world, a bad act should be followed by a negative consequence, punishment. Which makes sense if you believe that punishment is the safer route to changing a child's behavior, which we know it is not. But that is just the point. People in general do believe this. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, one of the major issues in And I find it very hard to work with these kinds of teachers that have this set. Yeah, another case was a 7th grade, a group of 4 children, 4 boys had physical, they themselves called it games or play, very physical, abusive behavior towards each other and a little towards other children as well. And when we came in, my team at the time, we set up a differential reinforcement program, and we started doing it and we saw immediate effect. But when we wanted the staff that worked at the school to maintain it and take over for us, they just didn't want to do it. They opposed it at every level. When I spoke to one of the teachers, he said that precise sentence that will come later in the talk, that no, that kind of behavior cannot be ignored. It has to have consequences. And he actually believed that they should be punished for what they did because that was the way to go. And no one did that anyway. But that was why they did not want to do what we came with, even though we saw the effect. That is weird. Okay. For the pseudoscience, as for the many modern superstitions that roam our society, teachers and parents still talk about children being creative versus mathematical, depending on left or right side of the brain, which is nonsense. Also, the different learning styles that were popular are still out there. It's visual versus tactile or auditive. I think there may be a few more. It is on the same level as other urban myths that everybody knows about, and a lot of people believe in them, like the one from Sweden, falling in love with the kidnapper when held hostage. It did happen one time, never repeated, but everybody talks about the Stockholm Syndrome. On the curriculum of many Scandinavian teachers' educational programs is a fiction novel that portrays children stranded on an island without adults. It does not end well, and people believe, due to this one book, that children would naturally develop unwanted behavior if left to their own. It is amazing that one book of fiction can have such an impact. Why not read 2 Years Vacation by Jules Verne instead, and then believe in the natural goodness of children? Oh no, both are fiction. Both are ignoring the learning history of the individuals involved. Another big idea among the humanities is this mysterious self that we have created verbally. Dualism is still very much alive and well, thank you. And if you believe in this particular misconception, which most people do, naturally, you would consider yourself above science. And that leads us to the religious aspect. When you thoroughly believe in something, and let me be blunt, many teachers, or at least their educational programs, seem to believe in an educational model from the 60s that have absolutely no true scientific base. It is based on Piaget's observations of his own daughters, Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, and a theory of environmental learning proposed by Bronfenbrenner, none of which can be falsified. None of these are scientific theories. Claiming a vague connection to brain and neuroscience, pedagogy is mainly something you believe in, not a coherent system of teaching or learning. Naturally, when other stuff that is scientifically rooted and can show actual results pop up, your faith is being challenged. And while some people go with the new science and facts, a lot of people do not. You do not become a Christian when you meet a Muslim. You do not become a Muslim when you meet a Christian. Other faiths doesn't appeal to you. Science is in a different category, and very few people are attracted to it. Once they have their beliefs, they're outside of the realm of science. So in the general educational program for teachers, they are still today actively taught that behavior analysis is an ideology from the 60s, whereas actually it is not. But theirs, pedagogy, is. Behaviorism is based on punishment, that it did all kinds of unspeakable experiments back in the day and still do. And you should not use it because it does not work anyway. This is taught at the school's educational level for teachers. And finally, also, for some reason, the educational programs for teachers may mention that behavior analysts also use positive reinforcement, which is then branded as unethical too, or at least ineffective. These are the ideologies that teachers carry with them. Not knowingly, I guess, but they're there. How do we address all of this? Punishment permeates our society, and it seems behavior analysis is somehow being blamed for inventing it. Modern beliefs in pseudoscience masking as household sayings and showing up in attitudes and opinions, along with the oh-so-sexy mentalism, is also everywhere, diminishing the value of science. And misconceptions about our science is still being widely distributed due to ideology. Well, here are my 4 takeaways that are of no actual practical value, but they sound good if you can somehow manage to implement them on your own. First, wait for behavior analysis to gain momentum worldwide. Let the water flow. In the meantime, be nice. Second, be observant. How can you help? How can you make the teacher's day a little easier right now? And there got to be one advice that is not actual behavior. So teachers will learn stuff if they themselves want to. So arrange for some good modeling, help the children in your care, and keep at it. I have examples of cases going back 2-3 years where I just keep going. It's just how it is. Yeah, I don't have enough time to go into cases, so I'll just go on. I know what you think. Is that it? And you're right, that's not it. I have some other more practical advice. Teachers are verbal people, we all are. So it makes sense that we should try to talk differently when interacting with teachers and parents. I hear the same kind of arguments or statements repeated again and again. And over time, I have found ways of reacting that do not hinder future cooperation and even sometimes make it easier. Mind you, I have come a long way, and you do need to swallow a few camels, but it pays off in the long run. So someone says this: why should I reward a student for one single good thing when he has behaved like an idiot the rest of the day? And this is a teacher said that to me, and I didn't respond the way I would have done now, but here is the way to respond. If you say something along these lines, because you don't want him, you want him to behave a little less like an idiot tomorrow. If you just think that way, you might get the teacher to, oh yeah, nice. Here's another one. It is not fair to the rest of my class if I give a reward to just one student. Also, real life comment from a teacher. And I did say this: you can reward him in private. Then you also need to build rapport with your student, so you can take him out just once in a while and you can give him his points there and then and rewards, and then you can talk to him and he can talk to you and you get to know him. And she actually did this, so that worked. Here's one. It feels wrong to reward a student for doing something he should be doing anyway, which is a very logical statement, actually. But you just need to think, how can I phrase a response to this in such a way? This is a very long response. You need to sort of adapt your own way of talking. But if you think along these lines, we give him opportunity to practice what he has not yet learned. Else he will continue to do it wrong or not at all. And once he masters it, you are right. Once he masters it, you don't need to reinforce it. I do not have time to give extra attention to a student that behaves well. This was not elementary school. It was the 9th grade or 10th grade. And that was chaos. That was a chaos classroom, and they actually didn't have anything working in that. That was a terrible classroom. I did say this: let us together find a way that will work for you, so that we free up your time and energy, because that was the teacher's problem. She didn't have the time. She didn't lie. It was not an attitude. She didn't lie. This was the problem. She didn't have the time. She had her hands filled with all the unwanted behavior from the whole classroom. But that one particular student that we work with was the worst of the worst. And when we caught him being good and started rewarding that, we did turn it around for him. The rest of the class was another story. And I did not go through with that case. It was a few years ago. So that did not end well. This one comes a lot. I have tried positive reinforcement and it doesn't work. This is a really ugly one. I want to say things like, now listen, the science is rather clear on this. If you open the refrigerator, the light comes on. It's cold in there and you store your food for safekeeps, which has made modern life 3 times as long as ever before in the history of mankind. Positive reinforcement is not something you do. It is the result of a selection process. And yes, we can arrange contingencies to manipulate the stream of behavior in a certain direction. But when you say it does not work, it's like renouncing gravity. Are you an idiot? If it does not work, you have not done it. And I may or may not have said so in the past. You remember those schools that do not want me back that I mentioned earlier? It is no good addressing the real problems head on. So today I would approach this blatant statement of ignorance slightly more diplomatic. We're all different, and something may work for some, but not for all. Together, you and I should be able to sort out what actually works for you and your students. You see how this opens for cooperation in the future. You don't lose your job over this. And you can work with the children directly when you're still in the case, instead of being thrown out. As another one that comes up once in a while, we cannot help this kid. Her problems stem from all kinds of different causes outside this school. Basically, when a teacher says this, it means please don't blame me. And I hear you. I'm not here to blame you. I'm here to help. So I think you're right. Let us try to arrange her school day so that she's comfortable in our care and learns as much as possible. She may not learn all, but she may learn something. Another one is the insanity. I have been a teacher for 20 years. I can say right away that this will not work. You cannot ignore the indignation here. There's indignation in this statement. In hindsight, yeah, I had a case where a teacher said this, and I said, well, I've been working as a teacher also for more than 20 years, and I went out of the wrong way. I lost that case. What I should have said is, how can we make it work? What can we do different from what we usually do? That will bring about better results. Then we have the one with the DRO or the ignoring unwanted behavior. This comes up once in a while. I just cannot ignore this behavior. I mentioned it before. I had a teacher say this. There must be consequences. And I found out that if I reply, and I do this every time now, if I reply like this, they get, wow, oh. So this one is a good takeaway. Oh, but there are already consequences. That is why he's doing it. So I met this new young teacher in the hallway, and she said, you're one of them behavior analysts, aren't you? Aren't you? And I said, yes, slightly alarmed. She said, you know, I don't like the way you treat people. I said, what? You mean helping them? She said, no, you treat people like they're animals. Behavior analysis is nothing but dog training. I said, why would you say something like that? That hurts my feelings. You don't know my history, and you could not possibly have known, but I always dreamed of a puppy when I was a kid, but my parents never got me one. And now I feel so sad and out of love. You really made my day, Mother. I think I need a hug. She said, yeah, I'm not going to hug you, but if you stop singing, we can go ahead and try your positive reinforcement thing with my classroom. I said, why? She said, you convinced me. I would not stop feeding my children just because I feed my dog. I now see the errors of my way. Behavior analysis is a natural science. It's not an ideology or religion. And it is so effective that it also works on animals. And with that, I leave you. Thank you for your attendance and good luck out there. It's time for questions. It's time for Carola to come back online.
I am here. Rasmi, I will have to have more of the singing. This was definitely a real treat. Thank you so much. The comments are going mad here. They're going absolutely crazy. Everybody just loved your presentation, and I've never seen as many questions. I don't even think we have time to answer them all in that quick moment. But everybody's saying they love it. If you look at the comments yourself, you can see it. It's just so entertaining and helpful. Brilliant stuff. I'll give a couple of questions, and what I was thinking then, if the questions that we don't get around to because we are limited to the 60-minute time slot, I'll post them onto I've taken a copy of them. I'll post them onto the Facebook page, and then we can discuss them there some more. Alison is saying she might rewatch this just for fun.
Nice.
Teresa was the first to ask a question on the chat, and she also got 8 votes for her question. So that means the top question was, do you ever reinforce the teachers? And if so, how?
Yeah, that is the whole point of this
behavior.
Talk. Yeah, that is the whole point of this talk. That is the way we need to start thinking. We don't work just with the children. We work also with the adults that work with the children, and we need to do the same thing that we do. I mean, I do it to my wife. My wife does it to me. My children do it to me. I do it to my children. We know about positive reinforcement, and we just need to use it. And it's not easy to find ways that. I mean, you can't walk up to a teacher and ask, "What do you like? I need to have an assessment of your reinforcers." That's not going to work. That's not going to cut it. So I assume most people like chocolate. That is always a good thing, and it's frowned upon to buy them cigarettes and alcohol. So I don't do that anymore. But doing stuff for them, helping them out, is a really good positive reinforcement. Just help and have that mindset. Think that way. How can I help this person to have a better day somehow? And it may be small things. It might be carrying something out of the room, or it might be just, as I mentioned, taking out the problem kid and walk with him for half an hour so that the teacher get a break. Stuff like that is of course negative reinforcement, but just figure it out. Do your own thing and be honest about it. Don't try to copy what I do or other people do. Just find your own way of helping out.
I think that's so true. Teresa followed that up with, do you ever let the teacher prioritize the problem behavior to be addressed first, even so you think that it isn't the behavior that needs to be addressed first?
Yes, that is also the point of this talk. You need to listen to the teacher. You need to solve his problems. If you solve one small problem that he is occupied with, then you might help him solve other problems that he has not even realized are problems. So just start where they are and work with that. Yeah. That is.
I think you answered some of those questions right. They came in really early, but then you answered them in the remainder of your talk. But I still want to go from the top down in terms of the saying to you. Julia is wondering if you ever get the impression that teachers have an inappropriate bias about applied behavior analysis. She once heard a comment from a teacher saying it's an approach that robotizes people, making them into robots.
Yeah, that was also addressed in the talk, that it is the ideology and the wrong misconceptions about behaviorism being spread and being still taught at high-level educational facilities that trains teachers. So they, of course, believe what they have learned and talk about it. So you have to show them that is wrong. And it's not a clash between their ideology and your ideology. It's not a clash at all. It is, how can we help? And when we help, things change.
Yes, I think that was a really clear point in your presentation. Christina is wondering about how do you go about asking for data collection from the teachers who are overwhelmed by their current workload?
I don't. I do it myself, or I have my people go out and do the data collection. I rarely let teachers. First of all, they are overwhelmed. They are overworked, and you have to understand that. You can't ask them to do any kind of interval recording. You might ask an assistant to do a momentary time sample. That is possible. And if it is not a frequent occurrent behavior, like maybe once or twice a day, I had a recent case with a kid that had some kind of Tourette's. Just a few times a day, he would say a loud noise. And I asked the teachers if they could just jot down on a piece of paper when he did that and then count how many strikes a day he had so that we got a baseline. And they actually did. That was not a problem for them because it was not 10 times an hour. It was just 2 or 3 times a day. So it depends on the teachers, on how many people are in the classrooms and their level of readiness. But no, you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Angela, just in the comment section, she said, "Thanks, you killed the topic." Killed. You know that's a compliment. That's a very modern day compliment.
I hope so.
I thought it was just lovely. As Andrea is wondering, you mentioned you start small with recommendations. That's great. But what do you do when you won't return and they need some strategies? I suppose when you just have a one-off visit, when you've just got a one-off visit, maybe that's not part of what you do.
That's not how I. Well, you can always give advice, but I mean, we all know that advice is rarely followed anyway. So, and no, I don't work that way. I come back. It is a continuous work. Usually, when I open a case, it's every day for 3-4 weeks. We're there every day to follow up. So it's not a one-time show.
Yeah, I
so
think
I cannot answer that.
Yeah, Emily is wondering about that as well, about the procedure for training the teachers on strategies and how often to follow up to check the implementation, especially if you support many school sites.
Well, the thing is, you need to do it first. You need to show them, and you need to have the implementation work. And once it works, then the teachers can be shown how to do it. You don't let the teachers do all the work to get it to work. You do it and then put them in afterwards. That has proven quite well, shown quite well with results for me.
Yeah, here you get another compliment from Alevitina. This was the most realistic CEU about school services that I've ever heard. So you're getting a lot. That's nice. Xin Yuan is wondering, I would like to provide talks to give teachers practical tips and more support using EABA in schools. What is the best topic that I should start with? I'd like to do that in my home country, Malaysia, which does not have a lot of awareness of EABA.
I don't know how the school system is in Malaysia, but if there is a lot of issues with behavioral issues, you should probably start with the good behavior game. That is very saleable and very easy accessible.
And it's free to use for anybody who wants to just make up their own charts and things like that. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Della is wondering about the principals. What's your experience with a principal that thinks EABA is a quick, immediate fix because they pay a high rate for BCBAs?
Well, it's not a problem in Norway where I work. Nobody knows about EABA here. It's more or less unknown. So no principal comes running to me. That's not unfortunately not happening.
Mohammed has got a big long question, so I'm going to read it out, and hopefully I haven't read it all the way down myself yet to see if I can make sense of it, because we have really just 1 minute to go. A lot of questions have been asked about the teachers' behaviour, including prioritising behaviours and selecting behaviour and bias towards EABA. I see all of this related to preparedness of teachers and optimum baseline knowledge concerning EABA, history, approaches, and so forth. Since most of the time we cannot force these into those who are unwilling, is there any approach that you can use to assess such teachers' preparedness ahead of time, predicting your successful experience with teachers? I'm thinking about inclusive education, which requires teacher skills, not their acceptance and willingness to allow us to intervene.
Yes, I do have a intake schedule that I ask teachers to fill out, and they think they fill out stuff like whatever questions I ask, but mainly it is to ascertain for me if these teachers are ready for EABA. So I do have a questionnaire for the teachers for that.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Two very quick questions, and that actually gets us through the questions. Nicola wonders, what do you recommend for someone who is new to EABA, starting masters in EABA in September? Any tips?
Read B.F. Skinner's books and articles and papers. Please go back to the basics.
Yeah, and even before you start the course. And Julia just wonders about study centers for EABA in Denmark. If you know any, I know you're Danish yourself. So do you know any centers?
There are no. Unfortunately, Denmark does not have any programs in EABA, but there are a few psychologists that are specialists in behavior analysis. I can put you in touch. Trin for Trin, Henriette in Copenhagen. I know about. There is a few more, so you can contact me directly.
Fantastic. Rasmi, we are 1 minute over, which is amazing. Given the amount of questions and the fun that people have had, I mean, obviously this was an excellent presentation. I mean, the comments, you should spend some time reading them. You're really tickled. It was a nice reinforcer for you. Lovely start to our EABA summer school. Really appreciate. And I think I said at the beginning, you were the first to put your hand up saying, I'll do a presentation, which was really good, helped us out immediately, sort of saying this idea of an online summer school seems to be like a good idea. It certainly makes it accessible to people from a whole range of different countries that are here today. From I can't even list all the countries. I mean, there was and the attendance remained pretty high throughout the talk. There was actually a few people joined us in the middle. So, Rasmi, thank you so much for this. It was really interesting. We will have the recording up on the Behavior Live website quite soon for anybody who missed the talk and who was registered. And eventually, once we get the recording, we'll also put it up on our YouTube channel, and we'll tell everybody where to find it. So I don't think you need the handout of the presentation itself, because once the video is out, you can just stop and start the video. You'll have all the slides available to you there. So Letitia says, please come back again. And certainly, there are lots of people giving more comments. I think Andrew said we're going to stay on for another minute or two, even so we're actually clicking out here, leaving the presentation. Rasmi, I'll see you very soon on the board of directors for the EABA meeting, and thanks again very much. Speak soon. Okay, bye. And thanks everybody for attending. By the way, thanks everybody for attending. It was great to see such a good turnout. Okay, bye.